All right. I think that now we should have audio live on Twitch as well. Thank you, champ, for that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Facebook and on Twitch. We'll be sharing the Facebook Live in just a few moments. We're going to bring in our esteemed panelists, and we got the return of Anna Knox. How has your summer been, Anna?
Oh, it's been good. It's been very good. As you know, I love time off. I was at the pool, I was at the beach, can't complain, but this is truly my favorite time of the year. So I love fall and I am so ready for hockey.
Yes, I'm very
I
excited
apologize for the head cold talk, but yes.
Yes, I mean, we talked about it last week. I'm just getting over COVID myself. And then of course I forgot to take my allergy medications for the 2 weeks of COVID. And so once I got off of COVID, the allergies came back. So, I feel you. It's that time of year where hockey is back, well, I appreciate it, Champ said. I was in this kitchen opening his wine and heard the music stop and then nothing. So he ran to my phone. So I appreciate it. This is why you have to have people in chat.
I know. Hi, Champ.
To give us feedback. Yeah, Champ's going to be joining us for both the football segment a little bit later with Dujunnea, as well as we're going to preview the NBA season as well. It's going to be a full 2+ hour show tonight. We've also got a live Monday Night Football game where the Raiders are already up 14-0 over Kansas City in Kansas City, but Kansas City is known to come back in these, but the Raiders have been playing good on Monday Night Football. So we'll have scoring updates from that as well. We also got a special guest for our first hockey show of the season. We're bringing in the other half of the Power Play Point podcast, and that is Gil, the blue liner on point himself. How are you doing tonight, Gil?
Pretty good. Great to be back on. Always love being on the Sports on the Hill podcast with you guys. And yeah, can't wait to get in and talk Caps hockey.
Yeah, this is very exciting. So for those who don't know the Power Play Point podcast, Gil and Anna bring a weekly great show to all the Caps fans out there. They really focus in on the Capitals, where this is more of an all Washington, D.C. sports show. They had a great episode 199 that came out last night, and I listened to it on my car trip this morning while I was dropping off my puppy at doggy daycare and on my way to work. And it was a fantastic show. And I want to just say an early congratulations, because if 199 was this week, then that must mean that 200 is next week. And so that's very exciting. It's a big number in the podcasting world. A lot of people don't realize it, but very few podcasts that are a weekly in base make it to 200, right? It's a show that is fantastic. It's got some great longevity. They've covered the Capitals for many seasons right alongside Sports on the Hill podcast, and I'm so happy that they're a podcast partner. If you go to SportsOTHP.com, click the podcast partners button, you can get the latest episode of Power Play Point podcast as well. So I hope that people do go back and check that out after this. While I share this live show to a couple of different groups and things like that, Gil, let the listeners know, A, how your summer went, and B, a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys covered in this week's podcast. And then after you're done with that, we'll get back into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, well, summer's pretty good. I have besides hockey, I have a second love, and not unlike if hockey fans out there are familiar with a guy by the name of Ed Olczyk, probably make some stomachs churn out there, as he used to be the coach of the dreaded Pittsburgh Penguins. But not unlike him, I have a second love, and that's horse racing. And over the summer, I got into that a lot, quite a bit more. Back home here in Maryland, we're having the Maryland Million, which is a celebration of Maryland-bred horse racing in a couple weeks. So I'm going to have eyes on that. But yeah, that's what I was focused on when not looking at the Caps. So that's what I devoted to for most of the summer. I'm sorry, what was part B?
Part B is let people know what you guys talked about on your show last night.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, so Anna and I kind of used yesterday's first episode of the season as a dress rehearsal, as it were, more like a mess rehearsal, maybe. I don't know, but Because yeah, we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. We
Definitely.
both of us maybe haven't caught as many of the preseason games as we'd like, although definitely caught the last two for sure. But yeah, mainly what we talked about was just talked about some of our expectations of the team and what the team looked like and how the new additions are fitting in so far, and things like that, and the challenges they're going to face with all of the injuries and acclimating the new faces and the familiar faces being out of the lineup and the void that's going to cause, and but a little bit of trepidation, but a lot of bit of optimism, and just us being us, talking Caps hockey, and we like to look at things from a fan's perspective, not so much on the stats, although that's what I like to use. But just watching the games is what we encourage. Watch the games and watch the mannerisms of the players and the body language, and just laying out what the Caps fan can expect this season.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. I think on tonight's show, I've got a lot on the docket, so to speak, and we're trying to do it all in about 45 minutes. We'll see if we get it all in. We may even have special guests call in. We'll see if that happens as well. For people who are just tuning in, we're going to talk hockey for 45. We're going to talk a little bit of football for 30, break down the unfortunate Commanders loss yesterday, and then we're going to have our NBA preview show. I'm going to talk a little bit of preseason to start this. We're going to talk about the roster and how it's shaped out and some of the transaction moves that happened today. And then we're going to take a quick look at the next 2 weeks. Next week, I'm actually taking the week off. I'm taking my son to a Gorillaz concert. He's very excited about that. So we won't be on. There's also going to be a live Caps game on. So Capitals fans can, instead of listening to us talk about hockey, they can watch that hockey game. But I'm going to basically talk about the whole schedule for the next 2 weeks, and I'll let each one of you guys take a game or two that you want to talk about a little bit, since we won't have time to break down every single game over the 2 week period, because just short a little bit on time on that side. So we are once again in the Metropolitan Division. We talked last week about a bunch of the preseason games. The two that we did not talk about was the Detroit one and the Columbus one. I'm just going to go through the scoring real fast in that. Bertuzzi scored against us to start in the first period. Connor McMichael had a nice goal with an assist by Alexander Ovechkin and Lars Eller to tie the game at 1. Rasmussen scored for Detroit at 7:42 in the second. Nick Jensen got a really pretty goal from the point, 13:45, with an assist to Connor McMichael and a Connor Sherry assist as well to tie it again 2-2. Connor Brown got a beautiful power play goal. I thought he played very well in this game. An assist by Dylan Strome, his first, and an Kuzi assist, his first of the preseason. And then at 19:06, we got an Ovi empty netter assist by John Carlson and Martin Favari. Will make it 4-2 in that one. I thought just an overall really good game. I was happy to see us play well at home. I thought Connor Brown showed that he could be a very good addition to this team. And Connor McMichael was also very good. I thought it was a good team game, especially to fall behind twice early on in the first and in the second. And then they sort of clamped it down in the third. And in goal for the Capitals was Darcy Kempner, who was a little bit shaky early, but I thought he really settled down. Ended up with a 9.39 save percentage with 31 saves on 33 shot attempts. So I thought that he played well. Gil, what's your assessment on that Detroit game?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with how well the three Connors, Brown, Sherry, and McMichael all performed in this game. I'm still of the opinion, Anna and I talked about this last episode a little bit. Still of the opinion that McMichael has a ways to go in his development, but showed definitely what he can do in this game, especially when he's put in the right position, that being the 3 center slot. I was very pleased with how the game went. Detroit is I think Detroit is going to surprise a lot of people. They've been languishing in the bottom of the barrel, bottom of the standings lately. I think Detroit's going to surprise a lot of people. So I was, well, very pleased to see how well they did, even though it is just preseason. This game and the next game that's going to be discussed, though, a little bit. If I had a criticism, I'd like to see them work on the cutting down the shots. Still a little bit of a homeowner's nightmare and a plumber's dream. A little bit on the leaky side. As far as letting up on the shots. But overall, I'd have to say pretty pleased. Key stat in this game, if you look at the game stats through the app, is the fact that the face-off percentage is 53-3 in the favor of the good guys. So that's definitely something you want to keep your eye on as the season goes along. So hopefully that's previews of coming attractions there.
Right. Anna, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Gil and I talked last night. I'm not, he had quite an opinion and I'm not going to take anything away from it on Connor Brown. I like him. I'm going to say that I think there's skill and I think that there is, the potential is there to be a capital. Absolutely. Connor McMichael is the one that I'm like, meh on, to be honest. I need to see more. And I felt like I said that a lot last year, but it's like, we know what he can do, just not quite seeing it. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that it's preseason, but let's just hope for the best. I really, really just want to see more from him because I'm not a huge fan right now.
Yeah, I can understand. Let's move along to kind of the dress rehearsal game, if you will. The last game before the regular season. It's another home game. This one's against the Blue Jackets. It starts off with Anthony Mantha scoring at 9:56 into the first. Unfortunately, Columbus gets the next two goals, including a power play goal. Then Ovechkin answers with a power play goal of his own at 19:47. A traditional Ovechkin blast from the point. This one was a nice pass by Evgeny Kuznetsov to John Carlson, and John Carlson just barely slowed it down, which I actually thought was a good move, and it just got it so it slid off the ice ever so slowly right to Ovechkin to put all of his power into it, which I think actually sometimes works to your advantage, that he could kind of time the shot a little bit better, pick his corner, and shows why he's still a top 10 player in this league. Even though is it his 18th season, Gil, that he's entering?
Yep, 18th. And he just turned 37. So as they say, I can't outskate Father Time, but I think Ovi's staying at least a couple strides ahead for right now, and fingers crossed it'll stay that way.
Yeah, and so incredible. And again, it shows resilience of the Capitals falling behind in these games, but not letting it get the best of them, and to tie it 2-2 gives them some momentum going into the second period. Unfortunately, Columbus scores again pretty early into the second period. Nick Dowd comes back and scores a really nice goal, assist by Garnet Hathaway, and Nick Jensen ties it at 3. I'll be honest, I was actually at a haunted house during this. I was in line watching this while I was being snaked around waiting to enter. So I was also swapping between this and a very exciting Aggies football game, which was coming down to the wire against the number 1 football team in college football. That is Alabama. So I unfortunately missed it live, but then I flipped back to the app and rewound a little bit and saw that Dylan Strome did get that goal, assist by Connor Brown and John Carlson in overtime. And it was funny because they were planning to do a shootout, but both coaches were like, that seemed like a really fitting way to end the preseason. Let's not waste any injuries or any random fluky thing, and let's just get out of here, which I think is the right decision. They had practiced, I think both teams had practiced the shootout a bunch of times leading up to that, so it's not like that was their one shot at it. So I thought that was a funny but interesting way to end it, and mostly because Locker was just very confused by the whole thing. And but 39 seconds into overtime, a beautiful goal and a beautiful assist. You just tape to tape pass, exactly what you want to see in 3-on-3 hockey. And for that 4-3 victory. Gil, what are some of your thoughts on this last preseason game?
Couldn't have said it better myself, except I got 2 words, and those who are devotees of our Facebook page at the Power Play Point podcast will know exactly what I mean. That pass, only 2 words to describe it: brown sauce. And if you saw it, you'll know what I mean. I gotta admit, I'm the more I'm seeing of Connor Brown, I'm still a skeptic. And I didn't like that deal when I saw it. Still a bit of a skeptic now, but the more I'm seeing right now, the more I'm liking about him. But yeah, that was a truly tasty pass to Dylan Strome. And I like the way those two have acclimated to the lineup so far. And hopefully it just gets better as we go along.
Yeah, I want to also say hello to people tuning in on our Facebook Live. Josh Kirby said, Caps hockey with the best in the business, the Power Play podcast. So I appreciate Josh for tuning in. I see a couple other people tuning in as well. Feel free to ask questions in chat. I'm monitoring both Twitch chat and Facebook chat. If I'm a little slow to reading any questions, I apologize, but I only have 2 sets of eyes, or 1 set, 2 eyes. But I appreciate everybody and for tuning in on all the different platforms, whether you're listening after the fact or whatnot. Very close to a touchdown here in this Monday night football game, but I think his butt hit down before it crossed the goal line. They're right now, I believe, reviewing it. It's very close. 4:52 left in the second quarter, aka first half. 17 potentially to 7. They might be taking it off, and it looks like they did. So they'll have an opportunity here at 3rd and goal. So lots of exciting sports happening here. Let's talk about the roster. Anna, do you have any thoughts on this game before we switch over to the roster?
No, I agree with y'all. Like, you know, like I said, like we spoke about Connor Brown last night, and I think Dylan Strome is going to be a name that we're going to be talking a lot about in the upcoming games, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, injuries, especially going into this year, were big question marks. I mean, obviously, Tom Wilson is a favorite of this group of commentators here, and especially with Anna. And, Nicholas Backstrom has been a favorite of mine for a very, very long time. One of my top 3 favorite Nationals of all time. Travis Kelce just got a 1-yard touchdown reception to make it 17-6 with an extra point coming. But yeah, so Nicholas Backstrom, being out for a long time, they needed to go and get somebody. And I'm hoping that this is something like a Tampa Bay situation where we can, maybe Nick doesn't play in the regular season and maybe we can sneak him in the postseason. I saw some early reports that some people don't think we're even going to make the playoffs this year, which, I want to caution Caps fans. First of all, any of those, simulated seasons rarely actually turn out that way. We'll start off with that. But also, people were throwing Darcy under the bus for some leaky goals, and they were saying he's only good because he had a good defense in front of him.
Jeez.
Let's give him some regular season.
We haven't even started, people. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm in the shut the, you know what?
Yeah.
When it comes to that preseason, shut up already. It's like,
yeah, he's not used to our defense yet. Got to give him some time. And in all these games, which I thought was really funny, that they almost make it sound like he lost these games 5-0. We ended up winning these games, so he was able to settle down and make the timely saves when he needed to. But Gil, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I get that. Yeah, you're always going to have the fan that's never ever satisfied. I've said it before, and on this show, as a matter of fact, you're going to have there's an element of the spoiled Caps fan. There always will be, always has been since number 8, the captain, became the captain and started carrying this team on his back. Everybody expects, well, not everybody, but a lot of people expect to win every single game 6-1 with a bunch of goals by our side and very little on the other side. And it just don't happen that way. Finally, management settles this goaltending controversy that we've been suffering through for 2 years ad nauseum. They finally get a Stanley Cup winning goalie to serve as that ultimate back line of defense. And you still got people who are still up in arms when he allegedly gives up a soft goal. Well, guess what? It's going to happen. That's what happens in hockey. Get over it, is what I say. I think Darcy Kuemper looked very, very good on a good sampling of high danger chances that I saw in the last few games that he was in. So I have no problem whatsoever with Darcy Kuemper in goal right now. I think he's definitely a 1,000% upgrade over the last 2 years that we've had. There's not going to be any more of this. Well, who's going to start? Who's going to take up the mantle? Who's going to play what game? There's no more of that. None. And that rubs off on your skaters. We mentioned this, Anna and I, last night on our episode. That rubs off on your skaters when you know who's going to start in goal. You know who's going to get the job done. You know he's going to be there. And you know he's got the experience and the know-how to back it up. So I think you're going to see a lot more out of the D-corps and the skaters overall in general now that you have that net presence solidified for this season.
I agree. And there's going to be some bad games for him. Our defense isn't perfect, and it's and it's not as good as the defense that was in front of him for the team that won the cup. But do I think they could all grow together? Do I think this could be a team that maybe isn't the strongest early, but they sort of grow together as a team and they build? That's what you really want. I don't necessarily want us to win our first 20 games and then fall apart at the end of the season. You want us to win as many games as possible early on. That was very helpful last year because there's always going to be a slump in the middle of the season. But at the same time, you don't want to basically expend all your energy at the beginning and don't leave anything in the tank for the time where it really matters the most. And so I'm hoping, he gets some of his bad games out of the way towards, the beginning of the middle of the season, because it's going to happen. Even if there's a number 1 and a number 2 goalie, he's going to go through some bad streaks. We're going to need to use our backup goalie. It's not like he's playing every game. Right. Ideally you want him playing maybe 50 games and your backup goalie playing 30 games, something a little bit more even. You really don't want him to be playing 60, 70 games and wearing himself out so he can't make a deep run in the playoffs. So they'll have to use both goalies. Just because we've answered the question of who's our number 1, it doesn't mean he's our goalie every single night. I think people have to understand that and understand that, goalies are very mental and they're going to go through slumps too. And it's just Absolutely. You can't just sort of think about it as oh my God, you can't when he has his slumps, you can't be oh no, not again. It's the same thing as what we had before. Right. And I know that's an easy thing for Caps fans to do because the reality is we've had one season where we've won it all. And every other year has ended with disappointment, with maybe the exception of 98, which I still think was a successful year because we were never supposed to make it that far. But 2 successful years and over 40 years of fandom, it's tough for a lot of, diehard Caps fans and a lot of new Caps fans who from the Rock the Red era maybe got spoiled with winning the cup and saying, hey, this is something that's going to happen every single year. And I'm telling you, every single team is paid the big bucks to come in and win a game. Yeah. The other team is paid just as much as we are. They have the same salary cap. Yep. They have the same constrictions. They have the same fans, pouring their heart into these teams. And it's only one team hoists that cup at the end of the year. And so it's just easy to say, oh, woe is me. Here we go again. It's the same story. I'm hoping that this is a magical season for us where it can all click at the right time. I'm going to ask you a question, Gil. Did they ever close that loophole, or could we still have Nicholas Backstrom come in the playoffs where the cap doesn't matter as much? Because I know there's always talk about closing that loophole that Tampa Bay utilized a couple of years ago.
As far as I understand it, the rules that were in place that you mentioned, Tampa Bay, they're still in place as I understand it. So it could very well be that if Nick Backstrom is not available until puck drop of game 1 of series 1 in the playoffs, then salary cap is out the window. So as far as I understand it, those rules are still in place. And if that's the scenario, then yeah, go for it. They'll do it. They'll
right. So this could be the big run for Nicholas Backstrom. It might be his last chance at those, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think so. If this is going to be probably his last kick at the can. Look, I get that the odds are against him as far as, many people have mentioned this in many different forums and to me directly. The most successful athlete or hockey player anyway coming back from this particular same surgery was Ed Jovanovski of late of the Florida Panthers and Vancouver Canucks, who had this surgery, came back for something like 37 games, and then ended up retiring that same season. So yeah, the odds are against him, but like you said, Robbie, if this is his last kick at the can, he's going to take the whole season if he needs to rehab and get ready and be as close to 100% as he can be come playoff time. And when he's ready, watch out, because we all know what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about the active roster. We had to unfortunately send a couple of players down to try to pass through waivers, and some of that did not work the way that we wanted it to. So Lucas Johansson and Henrik Borgstrom did make it down to Hershey. Unfortunately, Axel Johnson-Fjallby and Brett Leeson were claimed off of waivers, with Brett Leeson going to Anaheim.
That sucks.
And AJF going to Winnipeg. I'm just happy they didn't go to a division rival. You're only going to see them a couple of times this year. I know that doesn't. And the other thing is, if they at any point go on waivers again, right? We've seen this happen before with the Capitals. We can snatch them back up and put them on Hershey. So, that's assuming that they stay up with their teams for the whole season, which I would be surprised by. It could happen, and maybe there'll be really key points, parts to those teams. And if so, then I'm kind of happy for them in some ways that they get that ice time that they probably aren't going to get with us, because we still have a lot of injuries on our team. We still have a pretty deep squad. I am a little bit bummed. I think that both of them are really great players. There was some talk that we could have maybe put some other players down that could have been two-way players, and we could have kind of hid them. I'll start with you, Gil. What are some of the thoughts on some of the moves that happened today?
I'm with a lot of the fans who are really, really, really cheesed off at management. And I'll throw some names out there of players who probably should not be on the opening night roster, who, like you said, may have been, well, I don't know if they would have been sent down, but probably shouldn't be on with the organization at all. I'm looking at you, Marcus Johansson. I don't understand why he's got a roster spot, and a guy like Axel Jonsson-Fjallby, who has not done thing one wrong in his time with the Caps, in his time with the big club. He's paid his dues in Chocolate Town. I've seen the guy play live in Hershey. He hustles every shift. I definitely think a guy like that definitely deserves to get a sweater regularly. Maybe ride the bench at times, but he definitely deserves a roster spot. I am really, really unhappy to the point of being sick to my stomach that 90 still has a roster spot and AJF does not. Brett Leeson, I'm a little less high on, but we talked about this on the podcast. He's got the potential to be one of those two-way guys, like you said, probably a third or fourth liner who doesn't hurt you going either way. So yeah, I'm disappointed that he got picked up as well. So the youth has been, what they need to focus on, and now you've lost two of the younger guys that had a future with this team. I thought, and what are you going to do now? You just have to hope that the guys on the farm, come through. They come through with more prospects. But the forwards are starting to get older. Now you got two of the guys that were going to be the future gone now, and I'm a little sick to my stomach about that.
Yeah, you lost him for nothing, which is difficult.
Exactly.
And so that's a frustrating thing. Anna, what are your thoughts, real quickly, on the roster?
Well, we spoke last night, and what we knew was there was going to be 4 players going to Hershey, and then all of a sudden, to wake up to this news. I like Leeson. I mean, you're 6'5". There's the 4. So somebody that we could have benefited from. I think that he proved himself, and I'm sorry to see him go. Never been a Mojo fan. I honestly, I know there's probably a ton of people out there that are like, how can you not? Just don't understand. No, the hype. 2018, it's different now, not so much. I just don't get the hype. I'm not happy with it. And so Axel, I think, was one that I really think was going to mesh with the team and proved himself. And I'm sorry, I really am sorry to see him go to Winnipeg, but what can you do?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. It sucks because I'm really a big fan of Mojo, but I just don't think he's the same guy that he once was, right? I mean,
not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, so that's frustrating. So I'm hoping that maybe he has a resurgence and proves us all wrong. There's a bunch of these players out there that have maybe 1 or 2 more shots at this whole thing. And so I'm hoping that maybe the veteran leadership comes out in him, and maybe he can mentor some of these younger guys. I don't know. You just kind of have to. I'm frustrated too, but at the same time, this is what we've got, and we've got to kind of stand behind them and hope that maybe they prove us wrong. So I know that it's unlikely. I know that he came kind of mid-season last year. He didn't get to have the training camp under his belt. I know that he had played with us before, but it was a completely different system. So I'm hoping that some of the off season and being able to work with some of these players will help him. But I agree, it's very frustrating. Let's take a quick look at the upcoming schedule. I know that we've only got about 10 minutes left of this segment. It goes so quickly, So I'm going to read through the next 2 weeks, and you're fine. I know how you feel right now. So we're gonna have Boston as our opening night, and then Thursday at Toronto. So it's a back-to-back. So it's Wednesday versus Boston at home. Thursday at Toronto, it's a 7:30, and then Saturday Montreal at 7:00, and then next week we got Vancouver. It's at 7:00 on Monday. We see Bruce Boudreau again. And then Thursday, October 20th, it's at Ottawa at 7. And then Saturday, October 22nd, the Los Angeles Kings come to town. Almost all these games are at 7, with the exception of that at Toronto at 7:30. Then the last game is at the New Jersey Devils on Monday, the 24th. And so it's going to be a very busy show on the 24th for us. We're going to be recapping 7 games, including a game that'll just be ending. It'll be an interesting evening for sure. We may have to go an hour for that hockey talk because it's going to be a lot. But I'm excited. It's an interesting home away, a couple of home away. It's back and forth. It's not like it's a long stand either at home or away. Let's talk about these first 3 games: Boston at Toronto and Montreal. Gil, I'll let you pick the one game that you want to talk about of the 3, and then I'll let Anna pick one of the 3, and then we'll talk about the next week as well.
Well, oddly enough, I'm going to skip the home opener because I'm sick of talking about Boston, because we always play them, as Anna and I joked about last night. I'm going to skip over that and talk about the second game, the first road game against Toronto. First of all, very interesting that the schedule makers have once again partaken in some unique tobacco, probably, I think, and right from the get-go have scheduled the Washington Capitals for a back-to-back. Thank you so much. But and a home road back-to-back nonetheless.
I think 2 seasons in a row now, if I remember correctly.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. You wonder, you have to wonder. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so what's interesting about this game, of course, well, it's Toronto, and they're perennial playoff team. and I'll be nice and leave it at that. But also, they've already made the decision that the starting goalie for that game will be former Cap Ilya Samsonov. So right from the get-go, they'll be facing him to as one of the early games, and they're already talking about, okay, how can we take advantage of that? But Toronto, as I said, they're perennially a good team, so I think it's a good litmus test to start the year. I think it's a very good test, especially for the defense, because they've got that high octane offense that you can't stop. Of course, the Richard Trophy winner Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, of course, who is always dangerous, and a host of others. John Tavares, of course, a lot of others that they can score at will, and they've proven it time and time again. So I think be a nice early test of the defense. But I think one way they can take advantage of Samsonov is I don't know. Just make him move side to side a whole lot, and make him lose his stick a few times, as we've seen. I kid, of course. Sorry, that was a bad joke, but I think they know him probably a little bit better than most, and it's just going to be a very interesting game for a lot of different reasons. As I said, the defense will get a good test, and I think it'll be interesting going against Samsonov so soon. I'm sure he'll be hungry to prove himself, but I think that's going to be a very, very entertaining game to watch.
I love that he already is saying that Austin Matthews' shot is harder to stop than Ovechkin. So I'm hoping that Ovechkin printed that nice and large, and is going to try to prove him wrong and see how he really feels about getting the full-on Ovechkin slap shot sent his way. It is interesting. They're also playing back-to-back. Thankfully, they're coming. They're playing in Montreal the first game on Wednesday, so they'll be coming home. But still, it's not like that it was their first game, or so they both teams are playing back-to-back nights, so at least I'm happy about that to some extent. Anna, what are your thoughts on those first three games? Which game do you want to talk about?
Well, I actually was gonna choose the same game, but I am actually gonna fast forward to the 20th and talk about Ottawa. Okay. I think it'll be interesting. I don't know. I think, like, just looking at the lineup, and I am not a fan of the Tkachuk family, and so we have one on there, but we also have Claude Giroux. I don't know. You just kind of have to respect the guy for playing as long as he has, and for his game. And God, you just want to be like, you want to see somebody go out, on a high, on a so close to retirement. Wish it was not for Ottawa, but But anyway, so he's there, and
I'm surprised that he could have gone anywhere. It's just interesting.
Yeah,
that's where he ended up.
Which is but it's like, how do you go from, so I think that's interesting. I want to know why, and what he thought he's going to do in Ottawa that he couldn't. Well, whatever. So that's it. I think that's the game I'm looking forward to, of obviously beating Ottawa, but I think it's going to be a fun game to watch for me. And I think seeing Sammy between the pipes, who knows? He could either completely kick ass, and everyone's going to be like, oh, we should have never let him go. Or, the other way, and everyone's going to be like, see, that's why we let him go. So, I don't know. You can't please everybody.
Right.
It's just, who knows?
So, Gil, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Vancouver game, playing against Gabby. What are your thoughts on playing that team?
Well, yeah, Vancouver's kind of a weird team for me. They got that big bounce when they first hired Boudreau, and it looked like they were going to make a nice surge to the playoffs, and then they kind of faded. And Bruce, of course, is famous for what he can do with his teams in the regular season. Of course, when the Caps first hired him, of course, they were, languishing in the bottom of the division, and they had that, big turnaround where they made the playoffs on the last day of the season. So it'll be interesting playing against him. Vancouver, I don't know. I can't figure that team out. Every time it looks like they're going to turn around, they kind of just fade. They've gone through a management change. They've gone through a complete roster change. Nothing's been the same since the Sedin twins retired a few seasons ago. So they're trying to still figure themselves out. That game could go 100 different ways, literally, for me. But that should also be a fun game to watch. Laviolette matching wits with Boudreau. I think if the Caps stay, within themselves defensively, they've got a good shot at winning the game. One thing Vancouver's got going for them, they've got one of the more underrated goalies in Jacob Markstrom. So it's going to be tough. Getting the puck past him, I think. I don't know. Vancouver, like I said, Vancouver's just a team that I'm having a very hard time figuring out, but it should be entertaining to watch. I don't think it'll be a cakewalk. The last time we played them, I think it ended up being like an 8-6 shootout or something like that. So yeah, it'll be fun to watch, but I don't know what to make of that game just yet. But be another good early season test, I think.
So the Chiefs just hit a 59-yard field goal as time expired going into halftime. So they did cut it to 20-10. I would not be surprised if Kansas City, with that momentum going in the second half, if that ends up being a big 3 points right there. So we'll be monitoring that in the second half. I think it's already 9:45, so I think we're going to start to wrap it up here. Again, click on the Power Play Point podcast as part of our podcast partners button. If you go to sportsothp.com, click podcast partners, click the Power Play Point podcast. You'll get the 199th episode. And Gil, I want to congratulate you and Anna on 200 next week. That's a very exciting milestone for you. Let people know where they can get in touch with you. I'm also giving you some shout outs in Twitch chat for some links over to your Facebook page as well.
Well, before that, I just want to correct myself. I in the back of my head was like, maybe Markstrom's no longer with the Canucks. In fact, I'm pretty sure he ended up in Calgary last I saw, actually. So I want to correct myself. It's actually Thatcher Demko is who I meant to talk about. He's pretty good, pretty underrated, and pretty good. So if they start him, it's not going to be easy. That's who I meant to talk about. So I just want to start off by correcting myself that way. As far as the Power Play Point podcast, we're available on just about every platform there is. Our main distributor is a company called Podbean. Not everybody uses them or heard of them, but I'm going to give them a free plug here, of course. If they make it very easy, if you want to start your own podcast. In fact, I think Josh Kirby started out with them, if I remember right. So there's a good example. But we're available on just about every platform, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. I'm pretty sure we're on some streaming platforms as well. And if not, we're going to be working on Amazon's one of them, I'm pretty sure. SoundCloud's another little used platform where you can catch us, but we're working on expanding. And anybody who's watching listening to Sports on the Hill tonight, do please tell a friend, a Caps fan you love about us, because I think we offer a lot as far as a Caps fan podcast. Maybe we're not, up there with the big names as far as, number of downloads and having guest stars and things like that. But that's just it. The fan in our eyes is the star, the Caps fan. And that's who we focus on, you, the Caps fan, because we value your opinion. You're the one paying the money for the merch, the tickets, whatnot, and what have you. So we think you are the star. So we do you justice. So anybody out there listening, spread the word. We're looking to expand, and you can catch us. We usually record every Sunday night. If you want to come on the show as a bit of therapy, and if you're a Caps fan for a day or a decade, there's going to come a time in that season you're going to need that couch trip and talk Caps hockey, because it like Robbie said, it gets frustrating. So you can come on the show with us, and we usually record Sunday nights, and we're always glad to have new fans on. And I know I'm running off at the mouth here, but I'm always excited to talk and listen to other Caps fans say their piece about this team, because if it's one thing we have in common, we all love this team, our Washington Capitals.
Yeah, and I'll echo that Gil and Anna are great. I'm gonna try to have Gil on more this year. I know I'm sure CP3 is sad that he can't be a part of this. I know that he'd want to be, but and he is missed. But we're gonna have a lot of different guests join us throughout the season, and it should be fun. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on both Twitch and on Facebook. We got our friend Germs Are Fun is joining in. We have Andy, and we have CT and a lot of other people tuning in, and people tuning in on Facebook as well. But if you do have Facebook, you can look for the Power Play Point podcast. It's a great Facebook group where people talk Caps. The link is in our Twitch chat right now as well. But Gil, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this the opening podcast. And we'll definitely have you on as the season continues.
Always a pleasure, Robbie. And again, the Mermaid and I will be on a regular rotation. Like I said, we record every Sunday evening. I try to have the latest episode on later that night or sometime Monday. And we're always happy, Anna and I, to have anyone who wants to come on and talk Caps hockey with the both of us. We're happy to listen. So it's Power Play Point podcast. And so go Caps, and we're hoping for a great season this year. So Robbie, thanks again. Always a pleasure being on the Sports on the Hill podcast with you guys, and you do a tremendous job. And Anna, absolutely love you to death for repping us every Monday night for Caps Talk.
Ditto. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. I'll talk to you Sunday, gal.
All righty.
Take care.
You too.
All right. Thank you, Gil. As always, we're gonna talk to Anna for a second. We have a special guest who wanted to come in and say hi to you before you left, and so we really appreciate you, Anna, as always. You're a valued member of this team, and it's been cool. I think this might be, I want to say it's either the 4th or 5th season you've been with us. So that's really cool. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. But Champ, I know that Champ wanted to say hi to you as well.
Hi, Champ.
And I heard you say hi to me earlier, but I was away from my phone. I wanted to say hi. It's hard to get to talk to you because usually you're already off by the time the Wizard segment comes on. So I wanted to say hi. Missed you. Glad you're back, and glad to hear your take on the Caps. I can't wait for the Caps season. Caps season sounds gonna be awesome.
Awesome. And it was so good to see you, and I love the shirt, and I'm so ready for another season. I apologize, God, for everybody out there. It's like this head cold has just been, it's like no end. It's like, it just will not go away. And it makes me sound like I'm on, a whole other planet, but I promise.
You sound great. And,
okay.
People will understand. It's that time of the year where the allergies are flying, the colds are going everywhere. We both work for schools, so
it's the cutie effect.
Indeed. Well, Anna, I really appreciate you joining us. I've also posted all of your links, twitter.com/AKKnox49 or Instagram.com/AquaKnox49. You can also catch her in that Facebook group that we talked about earlier. But Anna, I'm so looking forward to talking more hockey in 2 weeks with you.
Absolutely.
And we'll have a lot to break down, including a live game and 6 other games. So it'll be a busy one, but I look forward.
But I'll be ready.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll be ready, and I'll be healthy, and I'm so excited. And let's hope, let's kicking off this season with positive vibes. That's it. So Champ, have a great show. Dujunnea, I think you're there too. Robbie, thanks again for everything. And I will talk to you guys 2 weeks.
I am. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Take care, guys.
Take care, Anna.
All right. So we got some exciting football to talk about. I did see that.
You're being very nice by saying exciting there,
It
Robbie.
wasn't okay. It was an exciting game. As much as I'm frustrated with the outcome, we had an opportunity to win the game at the end of the game, and that's better than we were doing in the previous 2 weeks, right? We'll all at least admit to that. And I want to give Stelcount a quick shout out. He says he hopes Juan Soto wins it all again this year for the Padres. So we'll see how that happens. At the very end of this, after we talk about the NFL segment, we will quickly go through how the baseball playoffs are shaping up. A really interesting wild card round in that as well. But before we get into that, we're going to bring in Champ and Dujunnea. We're going to talk a little bit of football. We're going to quickly go through this game, and then we've got 2 weeks we got to preview. One game that's on a very short rest on Thursday with the Bears, and then we have the Green Bay Packers. It's kind of a tough stretch against some NFC North teams here. But Dujunnea, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Hanging in there, trying to tough it out with all this Commander stuff. So, yeah, doing pretty good.
And Champ, I know that we've sort of said hello to you before, but how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Watching Raw right now, seeing a big, huge surprise return happen tonight, which is awesome and has a lot of questions. But I'm ready to talk about this football game because I got a lot to say.
Yeah, let's just get into it. I thought this game was actually in a lot of ways a lot better than the last couple of weeks. I thought that we got to see some deep balls get thrown, a lot of good things. There was still a little bit of a lack of balance. There were some questionable penalties called and not called at certain key moments early in the game. But we talked about that last week, that we aren't a team that maybe is deserving of some of those calls. But we had an opportunity to win it at the end. And I think that's where we should start it. Dujunnea, we didn't have very many, we had no timeouts left. We kind of wasted some of that and some questionable calls because we ended up going for it on fourth down regardless. So it kind of could have kept that timeout in our back pocket. In your mind, do you think we should have run it in one of those downs, or do you think it's the right call with no timeouts, with the chance of getting stopped short to pass on all of them? We'll start there.
I probably would have ran it. Look, the coaching was horrible. And I don't like the play selection, throwing it down the middle of the field in the red zone. You got to help your quarterback. Carson is who he is, and we all know that. So you got to help him out a little bit. I don't feel like they did that at all. Even if you don't run it with Brian Robinson or whatever, I even put it in Carson's hands and let him run it. Do something creative. I thought that would be pretty effective, but what they ended up doing wasn't really the smart thing to do. And then to again, what this team loves to do, and I'm not saying the team, the coaching staff loves to do is, if you look up the definition of insanity, the big fat W is right beside that. Their picture's right there because they love doing the same things over and over again that didn't work and keep doing them, and they still don't work. I can't blame the players. I'm really tired of hearing fans talk about Carson Wentz. There's a whole lot of other things that go wrong and that are wrong, and it starts with the coaching staff. And this coaching staff has not yet given their quarterback the ability to be his best, and they haven't put their players in a position to be their best. And once again, in a pressure-packed situation, Riverboat Ron acts, I don't give a crap about what he said in the presser about what went down. It's BS to me. I don't even care anymore. It's BS to me. I'm tired of him blowing smoke up mine and everybody else's behind about the crap that he's talking about because it's piss poor management. And I'm glad they were hard with the questions in there about it. But at the end of the day, this is coaching. I don't even want to talk about the players.
Yeah, I agree. Champ, what are your thoughts about the end of the game choices and some of your overall feelings?
I understand the play calling. You have no timeouts. You don't have a lot of time. You can't risk having a run play get stuffed, and then you have to hurry to the line, spike, and then come up with another play, X, Y, Z. I get all of that. I get it. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I don't agree with sitting there and throwing 4 separate times, because you see them, they're dropping 8 back and only rushing 3. You got to take advantage of that. At least take a shot at a run play when you see them with 8 back and 3 rushing. That's a perfect time for a draw play. You run the draw play. Maybe you get lucky and either Robinson or Gibson finds a seam. They're in the end zone. We're talking about a W. But instead, you sit there, you threw 4 times. They knew it was coming, and the fourth time was the nail in the coffin, because McLaurin, they were trying a quick slant. McLaurin got knocked off his route, and it threw Carson Wentz through a loop. He tried to throw to whoever he could. Next thing you know, the same person who knocked McLaurin off his route ends up making the pick to seal the game. Right there is what Dujunnea just said. It's coaching. You see that there's no more than 3-4 in the box. You need to go with a draw play and catch them like sleeping. Otherwise, regardless if you have timeouts or not, you catch them sleeping with a draw. The worst that can happen is they come up short. You still come up, spike the ball, and then you figure it out. But to throw it from shotgun 4 straight times in the red zone near the goal line, that's just not smart strategy. And Tennessee didn't even light up the world offensively. Honestly, they only had 241 yards total, but they held on to the ball for 32 minutes and 40 seconds. So that's what gave them the edge, was that they held on to the ball a little bit longer than Washington did, and they didn't have a lot of yards. But they managed to find a way to win this game, all because coaching-wise, they couldn't get it together. I will say, though, the one bright spot was De'Ami Brown. That man's only 2 catches of the day were long touchdown catches. He had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. I like what he's got in his second year. I think I want to see more of him and things like that. I can imagine an offense with McLaurin, Dotson, Brown, and Samuels out there. I think they would be dangerous if the coaching staff can get it right. But that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I actually think there was a window for Carson Wentz to actually run it right up the gut at one point, because everything had cleared out. He had an empty set, right? We didn't even have a running back in that situation. You know, there was a lane right there. And I think if he just submerged himself, he's a tall guy. And I think if he could have just plowed in there, maybe there was an opportunity there. I don't know. But it's frustrating that I don't see very creative play calling. You had a brand new running back in this game who never played, rookie, and they just were doing such vanilla run plays for him. And I just felt at some point there's no tape on this guy. So run something that's a little exotic. You know, I know that he didn't have a lot of practice, but maybe that's what they should have been practicing, was things that aren't the conventional stuff with him, because there's no tape on the guy.
Well.
Right.
He can already do that well. He's a natural running back.
Yeah. I gotta say how remarkable it is that Brian Robinson was in this game almost 2 months after getting shot twice in his lower region in an attempted robbery in DC. And I want to say the people that did that, y'all are scum, and y'all need to get yourselves together, honestly. But that's remarkable that he actually ran onto the field and played in this game and had 22 yards rushing on 9 carries in his first action in the regular season.
And they had him in at the end of the game. A lot of people thought that he was going to have limited, snaps, but they obviously liked what they saw enough that they put him in the clutch time, which maybe is a questionable call into itself. Like, I liked what I was seeing, but I don't know if I liked it. So it wasn't like he was getting 5 yards carry at that point. And you could potentially do more damage than good at that point in the game. So it's interesting. This Kansas City game is a great game. I'm watching Kansas City just march down, and that 59-yard field goal to end the first half might end up being a pivotal play in this very exciting game between a 3-1 Kansas City and a 1-3 Raiders team. Right now, it's still 20-10, 11:38 left in the third quarter here, 2nd and 6, but they're starting from their 30th. That should be a pass interference call. So it'll be interesting to see what they call. It might be a pass interference down within the 5-yard line there. So it's some exciting stuff happening. I thought that there was some progress in this game, but I agree. The coaches are just saying more of the same, saying, hey, you just got to be, take your time with it. It's a process and all this BS. But then you've got a Giants team that everyone thought was going to be the worst team in the division. And, they're right there at the top. And I'm kind of with no one.
Name me one of their wide receivers. Most of you can't unless you're a Giants fan. And it's Daniel freaking Jones.
Hey, tell that to my friend who's a Packers fan who was like salty for an hour after her team lost to them in the UK on Sunday.
Yeah. They're not that good either, but they're gonna beat this team though.
Right, probably. Yeah. So like, it's such a interesting thing because I'll ask you this, Dujunnea. Do you think the NFC East is as good as the records have shown so far? Or do you think there's some fluky stuff and it's going to come back down and they're going to be back to 500 teams before this is all said and done?
Let's see the second half of the season. Dallas is going to do what they always do. You got to give them credit as far as their defense goes. They have a solid defense this year. Really like what they're doing with Micah Parsons and that whole thing. I don't believe Cooper Rush is as good as he's been playing. I thought there's been some opportunities, but again, he's a guy who manages the ball very well, doesn't make the big mistakes, and they seem to be running the ball more. We'll see if that continues when Dak comes back. The Giants, Saquon is putting the team on his back and then got them some wins. At the end of the day, I don't know we'll just see in the second half. I don't see if that's going to hold up. Like I said, the Philly's been my pick from the jump, and I feel like they'll be the ones that could be the most mainstay out of the three. And the Cowboys will always stay around. That's what they're good at. They're not good at finishing anything. So as of right now, though, I think their division's pretty decent. But like I said, I wouldn't get too hype on what we're seeing right now. It's just too early.
Champ, same question. What are your thoughts on the division early on?
I think a lot of people felt that Philly was going to be the most dangerous. Even fans of teams in the NFC East had fears about Philly after a lot of the offseason moves that they made, and sure enough, they're showing it. They have not lost yet, right? But no one saw the Giants being 4-1 at this point in the season. And then there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, well, they didn't really play anybody. They played the Green Bay Packers in the UK, and they beat the Green Bay Packers. So now what do you got to say about the legitimacy of their record, that they beat the great Aaron Rodgers? And guess what? New York was the road team. Like, I watched that game. They had the go Pack, go. I was like, okay, all right then. New York was the road team, and they beat the great Aaron Rodgers. So, and then Dallas is Dallas. I mean, they're gonna do what they do, and clearly, like defensively, like Dujunnea said, they're really a really strong and talented team on defense. We are the only weak link in this division right now because we can't get our crap together. Defensively, we're pretty solid. We're pretty solid defensively. I mean, we saw it in the game against this game against Tennessee. 5 sacks on Tannehill. We had Tannehill rocked. It's just the offense couldn't do what they needed to do. My bad, guys. Like, I'm still watching Raw, and somebody just came out, and I'm like shocked. But anyway, but no, offense could not do what they needed to do, and that's going to be the pivotal thing for this team. If they want to be successful in this division that's already showing that everybody's over 500 except us, they got to get the offense together. They got to get it together. That's the bottom line.
Unfortunately, I think the season's already over, and I hate to say it so early, but we're 3 games back. We're going to have to leapfrog 3 teams. It just doesn't seem very plausible. But I will say Travis Kelce is a beast. He just had a great touchdown play. And it's funny because Patrick Mahomes had a terrible play the previous one, but you have to have that short memory, something that we're struggling with, I think, a little bit as a Commanders team. And he was like, oh man, the player and I were just completely off base on the previous play. Doesn't matter. Let me just go straight to my tight end and make a great play on the next one and touchdown. And now it's a 3-point game when they were down big early on in this game. And
I think that just sealed my win in fantasy football this week in one of my leagues with that touchdown, because I have Patrick Mahomes as my starting quarterback.
Nice.
Give me my points.
So anyway, let's fast forward a little bit. Short week, so we'll have a short memory of this game a little bit, because I don't know if there's a whole lot more that we need to break down. The Bears, which is an interesting team to play against. What is your assessment, Dujunnea, on the Bears so far this year?
Well, the Bears aren't that good. I mean, they're 32nd and 31st in overall total yards per game, total offense. 274 is their total offense. They're 32nd in total passing per game, 116.6. They aren't that good, just like the Tennessee Titans aren't that good. But you got a coaching staff that can't seem to have this team prepared. And as long as that's going to continue, and it's on a short week, it's on a prime time. It's a prime time slot. If they win, I'll be surprised. I'm telling you, it'll be close, like it was in this previous game. But I'm calling L's.
Yeah, real quickly, Dujunnea, a follow-up question. Do you think we stick with Carson Wentz, or do you think we throw a change-up in there and go with one of the other ones, early on in, just to see, having a more mobile quarterback, what that would do, or at least they seem to move it. I was listening to CP3's post game yesterday, and he thought that they tend to move the pocket more for like a Taylor Heineke. Or do you think it's still, they just keep on going back to Wentz? What are your thoughts on that?
If they decide to do a quarterback change, then Dan should just get up and just have all of them pack their bags and get the hell on out of town. You can move the pocket with Carson Wentz. This ain't on Carson. This is a organization that thought it was pliable or the smart thing to do to let go and let bodies go out the door like Morgan Moses, Trent Williams, what's his name, Eric Flowers. Y'all thought that was okay, and now you got these group of guys that you can't coach up, and it's not like they're bad players, but you're not coaching them up. This is a coaching problem, and as long as they can't get creative enough to give Carson or to do something to give their offensive line the best possible chance to work together and to gel as a unit, we're going to continue to have these problems. Because you can move Carson. Carson is not like Tom Brady. You know what I mean? He's not a stationary target. He can move. They just haven't chosen to do that for whatever those reasons are.
So the coach claims that he thinks the problem is that there's been different player personnel on that line every week, and it hasn't been stable. You don't buy that, right?
No, because at the end of the day, what are we going to practice for? You go to practice to work on things to be fundamentally sound. This stinking team in the last 3 games that had 8 penalties, 85 yards. They had 9 on Sunday. That's a lack of discipline. That comes from coaching, because see, the way you practice is the way you perform. And as a parent, that with this football team, that the things that happen in practice, they're not being corrected. And they're also not working on things that are going to better help this unit work together. This team has had worse offensive line combinations than this and protected better. So I'm not buying all that movement around nonsense. You'll have a few mistakes, but not the lack of discipline that we see, and not the flat out just absolute misses on blocks and assignments. Confusion. What does that sound like? Sounds like the defense on the back end. I can't with the stupidness anymore. You know what I'm saying? And, him coming out here talking about you can't call 2 plays in the huddle because you don't know Man, go tell Bill Belichick and all these other great coaches that, because that's a load of hogwash. You can call 2 plays. Get out of here. I'm sick
I thought
of
that was
stupidness.
such a fair question by Grant Paulson. I actually thought it was a really
fair.
And I think it was a really smart question by Grant Paulson.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy that he didn't let him off of the thing when he tried to like wiggle it out.
Yeah.
And then he came back with more BS, when he was challenged on it, basically challenging Grant as if he knew nothing about football. Grant's been covering this team for a long time. It was a valid question. And teams call multiple calls in the huddle, especially in situations where you don't have timeouts.
I like Grant Paulson. He's a great follow on Twitter. He's a very smart man, that guy. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah. We've been lucky to have him on this program.
Yeah. I just can't buy it. The team is one of 11 on third downs on Sunday. One of 11.
And the one came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. 1 of 11 on third downs. And defense is playing well enough to be through 2 games. The defense is playing well enough for this team to win the football game. And here we are talking about every week about the offense. I'm done talking about these players. It comes down to coaching, and these coaches aren't doing a good job. And I'm gonna tell you, if something don't happen on Thursday night, on Thursday night, some decision has to be made. Somebody's got to go. It's you in your 3rd year. I don't want to hear it at all. And no more excuses. This is not a new system. It ain't been no new system getting in here. You going up to the booth and you still couldn't call yourself out a wet paper bag. That's how trash the calling is.
Hey, Matt Rule just lost his job after 3 years.
Exactly. And to be quite honest with you, with all this passive speak from Ron and trying to be chippy, not explaining, and acting like it's not a big deal, and want to keep telling us that learning and building. Look, man, that learning and building was 2 years ago. You should be hitting the ground running. There ain't been no changes to that offensive coordinator. These folks should know. And this is a very smart quarterback. He's getting the job done, but ain't got no time. And you're not helping him. You know what Carson is. So we're not sitting here acting like we don't know what the heck's going on. We don't know who this guy is. And feeding us a whole bunch of excuses in the media, bro, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing that nonsense. They need to start taking responsibility, and the changes need to start happening. We better see some drastic improvement on Thursday night. Because if not, I'm going to tell you, somebody got to go.
I can't believe he had the audacity to throw the quarterback under the bus today.
Yeah.
And after all of what we saw with the line and the situation there, I mean, it's pretty pathetic. Chip, I want to get your thoughts on the Bears, and then we're going to quickly talk about Green Bay.
So the Bears currently sit top 5 in rush offense, even though total offense, they're near the bottom of the barrel, but they can run the football. So that's one thing that defense is going to have to focus on, is stopping the run. You stop the run, just like they tried to do with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry still did get over 100 yards and did get 2 touchdowns, which helped my fantasy team. So I'm sorry. So I'm bittersweet about that. And they said a stat on the broadcast on Sunday. They said that the Tennessee Titans have only lost 4 times anytime Derrick Henry's ran for over 100 yards. Think about that. 4 times. And I think it was 23-4 before this game that when Derrick Henry runs over 100 yards, they either, that's the record, 23-4. Now they're 24-4. So out of 28 games, they've only lost 4 times when Derrick Henry runs over 100 yards. So if you can stop Bears running a game, I think you have them in the bag, because Justin Fields is not him. He is not him. And this defensive line can absolutely eat him alive. I mean, they managed to get 5 on Tannehill, who's kind of mobile, but not as mobile as Justin Fields. But they can eat Justin Fields alive. And as they can do that, the offense needs to do their job and be able to deal with and be productive on offense. I mean, the Bears defense, they give up almost 379 yards a game. So they're easily you can easily get after them offensively. I mean, you literally had 385 yards this last game. So that's a little bit over how many yards the Bears give up on average. So It's not the defense knows what they got to do. Stop the run and eat up Justin Fields. The offense has to do their job, and they have to go out there and produce. If I don't know if Dots is going to be in the game because he missed this game with the injury. If he's not in the game, Dujunnea Brown has speed. And what do they say about speed, ladies and gentlemen? Speed kills. And he showed it in his game against Tennessee. Speed kills. And if you can get him in stride, it's over. If you can get more targets to McLaurin, it's over. If you can get Samuels on some exotic looks and some different route combinations, it's over. You just have to stop doing simple crap and get creative, and you'll win. If you lose this game, it's over.
It's so frustrating because I just feel like they're too vanilla. It's like we can be calling what they're going to do, and so the other team can too. And I just don't, especially in a situation where your offensive line is not working, then you got to have shorter routes. You got to get people behind, the blitzing, I just don't, I'm not even that much of a football guy. I'm a football guy enough, but like the fact that I can see this stuff, it's like, it really questions me, the offensive coordinator. I mean, what are we really doing here? And it just sucks because the defense was good enough. I mean, in my mind, they stopped Derrick Henry, he got over 100 yards and two touchdowns, but I thought they did a fine job, good enough.
You know what's crazy, Robbie? Here's the crazy part. As I watched this game, because I watched this game from beginning to end, I didn't see a lot of blitzing from Tennessee. It was mostly 4 or 5 man rushes, and they still managed to get the Wentz 3 times on 3 or 4, like 4 or 5 man rushes. I didn't see no all out blitzes. I didn't see no corner blitzes. I didn't see no exotic blitzes. Just simple rushes, and they managed to get to Wentz 3 times.
But it's not even the 3 times. It's the hurry up. He didn't feel comfortable back there. It's the knockdown balls, right? So even if he only got 3 sacks, they were disrupting a lot more than that,
They really were.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Let's get into Green Bay real quick. Dujunnea, I know that this is 2 weeks out, but we're not going to be doing a show next week. What are your thoughts on a Green Bay team that has been very up and down? I do want to also mention they'll have a game in between ours as well. They'll be playing the Jets, who are also kind of surprising team this year. That will be a Sunday game. So we'll have a little bit of a longer rest going into that next game. And what are your thoughts about playing Green Bay in 2 weeks?
I really believe at this point it's much the same. Green Bay's about a top 5, top 10 team right about now. They don't necessarily look like it all the time. Stats can be deceiving. I think they have their own share of struggles. They don't have their wide receiver core they used to. And they do have some solids at the running back position. It's really just containing them, in the run game and forcing those young wide receivers to make plays, which has been difficult for Aaron Rodgers. The problem is that, again, offensively, Washington cannot move the ball and really have nice sustaining drives where they're really punishing the opposing team's defensive line. With that said, I just, they haven't had much success against Green Bay in the past, and seems like Washington is always a team at some points that get right. So I really see 2 losses in the next 2 weeks. I think that's how I had it in our pick'em. But this team's got to find a way to get it done, and it's hard to get it done despite coaching. You know what I mean? And hopefully these coaches will look themselves in the mirror, and they'll be able to take advantage of a team that isn't better than them on Thursday night. And I don't really feel like if you're talking about talent-wise and on paper, and looking at things and what we have seen, at least in the first game, some flashes that we have seen in some of these games, I really believe that they are better than the Green Bay Packers offensively, and I believe their defense is as well. But it's going to take coaching to look inside themselves and make some adjustments to help their players. That's what coaches do. That's what good coaches do. They tailor their stuff to the personnel that they have, and it hasn't been done here, especially since they've lost a few offensive linemen. It would be really good for them if they would recognize that, make those changes, and help their quarterback and this offense as a whole.
Oh my God, Travis Kelce is just a one-man wrecking crew. He caught it from 8 yards out, and he just stiff-armed and got past 3 guys as if it was nothing. There's now a flag. I think maybe some taunting going on, but I'm interested to see what the call is. But they're gathering together now. But just what an amazing, amazing football player. He's just a real joy to watch. It sort of bubbles out. He gets knocked off a thing. He like circles back around. 1 guy, 2 guys stiff arm, and he falls into the end zone. After the play was over, personal foul. So that's going to be a touchdown. And personal foul by the Raiders. Yeah. By the way, you did have us beating Chicago Dujunnea, but losing to Green Bay. And it was interesting. You actually only had us winning 3 times in the first 10 games, but had us winning out at the very end to get to 10 wins. So you thought that we would be stronger in the second half, where a lot of people thought we would be stronger in the first half. Do you still think that's a possibility? I mean, what are your thoughts?
With the talent is possible, you know what I mean? I just things based on what we've seen, especially in the last 2 games, doesn't, them going on the road doesn't look well for the football team. But at the end of the day, they could possibly beat Chicago, and I think they should. I mean, they really should. But can we trust it? And at this point, I can't. But I do feel like if they can win against Chicago, and they can at least against Green Bay be more respectable on offense, being, trying to do things more and being effective at it, then I can see this team starting to move forward in the second half of the season. Because that's exactly what I thought. I thought they'd have some issues offensively, just missing a few plays and coming up short in a few games, but looking like a complete football team that's building. And then in the second half, you start to really see them click offensively and put things together. Hopefully that can be the case, but right now it doesn't look like it. And it like I said, I will stand on this 100%. This is not on the players. This is 100% coaching, and I will stand by
I agree.
that.
I think the penalties say it so much. It's just consistent penalties. It's
the
one thing if it's one guy getting all the penalties or whatever. It's across the board. It's every possible penalty. It's always at the worst possible time. It's on offense and on defense. It's not in one position group. It's, it does smell as if it's coaching. And I do wonder how long this leash really is. It seems like he's got an unlimited rope, but I mean, I don't think he's proven that he deserves it. I know that he had some early success here, and so that gave people some hope, but it's a what have you done for me lately kind of league, and coaches have been fired for less. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I want to get Champ's thoughts real quickly on Green Bay.
Just as you said, Robbie, like I said earlier, Matt Rule just got fired in his 3rd season of a 7-year contract because he wasn't producing. So that being said, this Green Bay game definitely gives me a lot of pause, because even though Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a very, very different wide receiving core than he's been with for the last couple of years, the way these DBs have been playing the last couple of weeks, they can still go out there and put up big numbers, especially going up against a quarterback the caliber of Aaron Rodgers. Like, Rodgers can exploit anything that he wants to. And if they can get the running game going, I promise you, like, this team will not hold up very well, honestly. This Green Bay game gives me a lot of pause, but if Washington can somehow find a way to come out on top of Green Bay, I will be pleasantly surprised. But I think it starts off with the defense getting home and getting to Rodgers, because Rodgers is not a mobile quarterback. And he's not mobile. So if you can get after Rodgers, rattle him a lot with these young wide receivers, I think you can really do something. But it once again falls on the offense. The offense has to also produce as well, because Green Bay's defense is not as potent as you would want it to be. So I think they're for the get, but you have to be able to go out there and make it work. So Green Bay, if they can win in Green Bay, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I'll be happy, but I just don't see it.
The game is in Washington. I will say that, but I think that this first game against the Bears can be like one of those games that can give them momentum one way or another. I think if you could go to Chicago and get a win, you could come back with a little extra rest against the Green Bay and use that as sort of momentum and a get yourself right type of game. And I think that in my mind, they either win both or they lose both. I don't know if I necessarily see them splitting. And if it is splitting, I think they probably beat the Bears and not Green Bay. But it'll be interesting to see if one could give them a little bit of momentum. And you see this in seasons where teams go on some of these streaks, and just a little bit of belief in yourself would be so important for a team, because if coach is right in what he's saying, that he's just trying to, instill certain things in this team, they need to have some payoff for it, because otherwise he's going to lose the room. And in some ways he probably already has, but the only way to get the room back in your corner, so to speak, would be to have some payoff to show that what they're learning and what they're doing in these practices is actually having some results on the field. And if there isn't, then he's going to completely lose them. So this game has been such an interesting game. Talk about flow. The Raiders did just get the ball back and just made a huge play and bounced it outside, gets it to the 20-yard line. But this game was 17-0 at one point, and Kansas City then rattled 24-3. It's still not over. Oakland has the ball. We'll see how they do with this in this exciting game. But Dujunnea, let people know what's happening on the podcast or anything you're writing this week or next week, and then we'll let you go, and then we'll bring Arun in to talk a little basketball.
Well, we have a podcast dropping tomorrow at 7 a.m. We're talking some Commanders football. We talk about the Tua situation and the new letter that said absolutely nothing of their alleged findings. And we break that down as well. Also kind of give our thoughts on the Matt Rule release, and that will be dropping tomorrow. So you can get that on all podcasting platforms. And share, like, and all that good stuff. That'd be great. Don't have anything written coming out yet, but we'll be doing a lot of talking about the NHRA here coming up this weekend. They will be in Texas for the third race of the countdown, or it's the third of one of the final three, I should say, the countdown to the championship. Should be interesting, man. It's going to be crazy with all the points and how they're all stacking out right now. So, yep, that's it. Always love talking shop with you guys on Twitter as well.
Real quickly, two things before I let you go that I just thought of. One is, what are your thoughts on the new concussion rule that is now being put into play?
Oh, God.
They didn't do anything. But so you used a fancy word, which, okay, I get describes a few other things, but the concussion protocol was to be able to look at those type of things. That's part of it. If some guy's stumbling around and doesn't have good motor skills, it's obvious. And I'll go ahead and read this to you guys real quick. Just what it's called ataxia. I could be saying that wrong. That's a new term they're using. It's supposed to be defined as abnormality of balance and stability, motor coordination, or dysfunctional speech caused by a neurological issue. Concussion. So use a fancy word to describe what was already there. It's blatantly obvious. And friends, this changes absolutely nothing. But like I said on the podcast, we will discuss a lot more what I think about the letter and what they sent to us, and was put out there for the fans to hear. But yeah, it's just what they did nothing. I mean, come on.
Teddy Bridgewater got hit with that crap yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he did. But I mean, that's what should have been an honest evaluation should have been done. But we'll see how long this lasts, because at the end of the day, as we talked about on your last podcast, this is about money at the end of the day. And the NFL and the NFLPA are releasing joint statements. NFLPA is supposed to have the best interest of the players involved. So why are they buddy all chummed up with the NFL and protecting, it just looks bad. It's all about protecting the shield. And I don't feel like the NFLPA is truly for the players, because it should be separate, But yeah, that's my feeling on it. It did absolutely nothing.
And one last question, since I know you're a big college football fan, and I did while I was in a haunted field, I was listening to something. I was so excited about my Aggies. I thought they were going to get it done against Alabama. What are your thoughts on quite an interesting finish and a scare for the number one Alabama at the hands of the Aggies, who've had a tough season of a lot of close calls and not quite making it?
If he turns his head just a little bit, the game is over. Touchdown. He just didn't turn his head enough. The guy was open, man. It was an amazing game. I really thought the Aggies had a chance towards the end. Like I said, they really did. If he just turns his head a little bit, he sees a wide open guy, and they likely score and take the win. It's pretty cool. I think this is, I'm really not sure how long Young is out for, but Alabama can be had is what I should say. And I know there's a team that comes out, every year and kind of scares them a little bit, but they've had this happen, 2 times this year. So,
and the Aggies beat them last year. The
yes.
Aggies have played them very well over the last decade. I became an Aggie fan because my wife is an Aggie, and I even put them into my vows where I said I would take them, and she would take what at the time was the Commanders or the Redskins, and so I've become a diehard fan. That was part of our deal, and I'm just so excited that this rivalry has become, I think, one of the better rivalries in college football.
Absolutely.
Where and people kind of overlook it a little bit. I don't think people talk about it, all that much, but it's as an Aggie fan, it's exciting that every year, they were supposed to be blown out by 24.5 points, and they almost won it on the last play. It's just so weird that both games this week for me, the Commanders game and the Aggies game, they're like on the 2-yard line with one play with a chance to win it, and neither team gets it done. But both teams at least made me proud that they got to a point where they could at least have had an opportunity at least. So
yeah, that was a fun game, man. It's going to be an interesting season as we, continue on in college football.
Sounds good. Well, I just wanted to get some of those thoughts out there, but thank you, Dujunnea, as always, for helping us break down a lot of different stuff. We'll look forward to you in 2 weeks. It'll probably be a 10 o'clock football start, just because I'll have 2 weeks of hockey to break down and a live game. So it'll probably be a lot, but we'll have you and Champ on. We'll do a quick breakdown of both football games in 2 weeks, but I look forward to having you back on the show then, and hope you have a great 2 weeks.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, DJ.
All right, brother. Hey, sorry I missed the live stream. I was not around. I was actually at a football game.
No worries. It was fun, but we'll see you in the next one, bro.
Yes, sir. Later, guys.
Sounds good. All right. With that, we'll bring Arun in, and we'll switch gears to the NBA. A interesting night. I obviously have been doing this show, so I haven't had a chance to really watch it, but I am happy to report that the Wizards didn't win the game. Oh, I like it. Different dog, new season. I
Right?
love it. There you go. I'll go through the score real quickly for those who may have missed it. The Wizards went up big in the first quarter, outscored the Hornets 36-23. In the second quarter, the Hornets stormed back, outscored 35-25. And then in the third, the Hornets continued to outscore them 31-20. But in the fourth, the Wizards put the hurt on, outscored them 35-18. Porzingis with 20 points led all scorers on the Wizards side of it, and they got a 116-107 preseason victory. There'll be one more preseason game upcoming on Friday at New York. This game was at Charlotte. Arun, welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been a while since we've had you on. How are you doing tonight?
Not bad. That Washington game was a little bit demoralizing, but I kind of predicted it, so it's not too sad this Monday.
Yeah. Do you also think we should have run it with one of those four, or do you think that you had to throw it with the no timeouts?
They could have run it, and I think they didn't even have Gibson in that final drive, so I'm not sure they would have even gotten it in if they ran it in, because I don't think Robinson, he only had 2 yards per carry, and McKissick, I guess for him, he's only a pass catching back, and that's where they threw the interception to, so it wouldn't have worked out, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what are some of your thoughts on the NBA preseason for the Washington Wizards?
Well, they traveled to Japan. They played a couple preseason games against the Warriors. We're getting to see the Beal and Porzingis pairing. I guess not so much tonight because Beal didn't play because he's out with the COVID protocol, but he was just cleared. So he, by the way, earlier this evening, so he'll be back soon. I guess you get recover from COVID faster after getting it for the third or fourth time. And Porzingis, he had 20 points tonight. He probably has to be the best player or pretty close to it if the Wizards are going to make the playoffs this year.
So, Champ, what are some of your thoughts on the preseason so far for the Wizards?
So we already saw that Rui, we talked about this, Robbie, in a previous podcast, how Rui was able to do some work while in Japan in front of his home country against the Warriors, the defending champs. But then tonight against Charlotte, we saw Porzingis get 20 points before he had to leave the game with an injury. He injured his ankle stepping on someone's foot driving the lane, which he ended up making the basket, so he had an and one. But he ended up leaving the game with an injury with 20 points. But it was very good scoring from this Wizards team with at least you had 6 players in double figures in this game. And you also saw a Charlotte team that lost LaMelo Ball to an ankle injury himself. So this was a really good performance, even without your star and Bradley Beal playing in this game. You really got to see a lot out of this. Rui continues to do well. He had 15 on this night. Daniel Gafford continues to bring the energy. He had an emphatic dunk in one play on this game, which was like you hear him yelling because how quiet the crowd got when he made that dunk. He was just like emphatic with it. Kuzma had 15. Everybody in here, like the team played well. It looks like they're really figuring it out. Hopefully, by the Knicks game on Friday, they really figure out rotations and figure out good groupings in here with this team and be able to come out and just hit the ground running when the season starts next week. But I'm cautiously optimistic about this Wizards team when it comes to the regular season. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, Arun, what are some of your thoughts of what would you like to see going into the next game?
I'd like to see Johnny Davis, the rookie they drafted, play a little bit better. He had 4 points tonight, but the summer league is pretty awful. And also, I think somebody's going to have to fill in for Corey Kispert now that he's out with I believe he's out for 6 weeks. And Denny didn't play tonight. He's going to have to step up. Rui, hopefully he's healthy and can come back soon. That small forward spot pretty much up for grabs. Porzingis and Kuzma will probably start at the 4 and 5 this season. And if Denny and Rui don't step up, then probably Gafford and Porzingis play together. That'll be a pretty big lineup. But probably the better long-term health will be for Denny Arun to start playing well and start hitting some threes. And we'll see. And Bradley Beal, hopefully he can get it going. He only averaged, I believe, like 21 or 22 points per game last year, but hopefully he averages close to like 30 points per game like he did 2 seasons ago. And perhaps Porzingis will take the burden off of Bradley Beal and he can play much better, especially from 3-point range.
Yeah, let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. Since we're not going to have a podcast next week, the season starts on Wednesday, October 19th at Indiana. It's a 7:00 game. Then the following Friday, they play Chicago in Washington. That's a 7:00 game. And then on Sunday, they play at Cleveland. It's a 7:00 game. So it's 3 central teams. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on playing Indiana, Chicago, and Cleveland to start the season?
Indiana, they got rid of Sabonis, and so Washington, that's pretty much a must-win game for Washington. That's definitely the easiest game on the schedule. I think Indiana does have some talented players, but overall, I think Washington, if they're healthy, they should take that game. Chicago, I remember that DeMar DeRozan game-winning three that the Bulls they hit at the buzzer. That's going to be a tougher game. They're probably without Alonzo Ball, but the Bulls do have Zach LaVine and, as I mentioned, DeMar DeRozan. So that I think the Wizards might lose that game. In Cleveland, they just acquired Donovan Mitchell. He didn't really play that well to close out the season with Utah, but Cleveland is a really good defensive team, and Donovan Mitchell, if he's plays close to what if he averages like 25 points per game, I think that'll be a really tough game for Washington. Although maybe that since Mitchell was just traded there, maybe it could work out because there could be cobwebs that they're working out in Cleveland. So that'll be a really good game to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I just realized I've not had the right screen up this whole entire time. Hold on. Where are we? Sorry, I realize it now. Where is it? NHL. Oh, there it is. Anyway, may as well put it up now. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Champ, on Indiana, Chicago, and Cleveland to start the season?
Right. So the Chicago game is kind of a very concerning one because of the presence of DeMar DeRozan, who is a phenomenal player. So that's going to be one that's going to be worrisome, even though it is at home. So, the Wizards will have the home. The crowd should be electric because it's going to be the home opener for the season. So the crowd should be electric. They should be into it, you would think, but we'll see. But, the Pacers game should be very interesting indeed as well. And of course, the Cleveland game with the new acquisition that they got, that should be another interesting one as well. I could see the Wizards at least winning 2 out of 3, the Pacers and the Cavs. The Bulls one might be one that would be the one they would lose, which would be really heartbreaking to lose your home opener in front of what should be a ruckus and fired up crowd. But I feel like the Wizards should start off 2-1 before to start off the season.
Yeah, interesting. I wanted to switch gears for a little bit. I know that you've been watching all the wrestling stuff. I heard that Bray Wyatt had a big introduction, and it was very exciting. I know there's been hints about it for a while. I just wanted to give you a moment to talk about that.
So for the last few weeks, they've been airing little vignettes called the White Rabbit on WWE TV, as well as at live events, playing an old classic song signifying a white rabbit. And all the dirt she said is Bray Wyatt, is Bray Wyatt, is Bray Wyatt. So we all figured it was Bray Wyatt, but then when he made his return on Saturday night, and myself and Sith were live on stream watching it, and it's still was an amazing, amazing return. The crowd went absolutely insane. There was a holy crap. There was a holy you-know-what chant. And then as soon as the man walked out and revealed his mask, the pop that he got, like I'm literally getting goosebumps right now just thinking about the pop that he got when he revealed his mask. When he took off his mask, revealed he was back. He was unceremoniously let go over a year ago, quote unquote, due to quote unquote budget cuts. Even though a lot of people know that he had some disagreements with the previous man in charge of creative, Vince McMahon, who was long since retired back in July. So to have him back in WWE and to be able to work with someone like Triple H, who is a wrestler himself, who knows about the business, I think it's going to be a great thing moving forward for Bray Wyatt. There have been reports that Bray actually had offers from AAA, AEW, and Impact, but nothing came about those. So, I mean, it was an amazing scene in Philadelphia watching that man make such a triumphant return and just everybody embrace him and just be so happy to see him. It was amazing to see.
So in this Chiefs game here, the Chiefs are right now up by only 1 point, and it was a long field goal attempt that missed, but it was a holding call on Vegas that gave them a new set of downs. So a big mistake there by Vegas, the Raiders, and now it's 2nd and 9, and they're driving again, and almost got a first down right there. There'll be 1 yard shy on 3rd down. But they're in the red zone. So a big mistake by the Raiders, because if they miss that field goal and they get the ball back, they're only down 1 point with a little over 8 minutes left. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. Arun, I want to give you the floor. Is there any sport or thing that you wanted to talk about that before we let you get out of here? I'm going to talk a little bit of baseball playoffs. I don't know if you've been watching any of the baseball playoffs at all, but I was going to mention a couple of those things. But Arun, anything that's been sticking out to you lately?
Arun, what was you saying in our group chat? So talk about that.
Yeah, people are talking about all the offensive linemen that left, but what about Bill Callahan? He's in Cleveland right now. They're rushing up a storm with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So maybe that offensive line is missing from Washington as well. And yeah, I forget what else I said in the group chat. Any RG3 stuff. Oh yeah, Carson Wentz, he had 5 carries, and Gibson, he only had 3. So I thought that was pretty bad. And I think Gibson's already in the doghouse again. Rivera says that he's going to be running special teams. And yeah, I've been watching some of the baseball playoffs. Philadelphia, they came back against the Cardinals, and looks like the Mets have been eliminated from the postseason. Max Scherzer, he's out. And I believe the top 3 players on the Mets, they make more than the entire Cleveland Guardians lineup. So, yeah, hopefully, I'm not sure really who I'm rooting for in the playoffs anymore, but it should be interesting. And on Friday, the Wizards are playing the Knicks in preseason basketball. So it'll be interesting to see I wonder what Brian thinks, but that'll be interesting. Porzingis going back and playing the Knicks. But those are pretty much all the sports thoughts I have right now.
Yeah, so Kansas City just threw another touchdown to Kelsey, his 4th touchdown reception of the game. So that's going to be good for you, champ. What a really interesting play design. 2 players kind of curling around at the same time, and obviously they did not cover it well. But coming in, they usually say don't throw across your body. But it worked out well for Mahomes in that situation. And they tried to go for 2 since they're already up by 3, and there's not much of a difference between 4 and I guess 5. But they did not make the 2-point conversion there. So they take a 3-point lead with 7:25 left in the game. But some interesting sports. I thought I'd just really quickly go down the baseball.
Robbie, really quickly though, I just want to laugh at the fact that Aroldis Chapman got taken off the all-pro season roster because he missed a workout. The Yankees are in shambles. Like,
Yeah.
how does man miss a mandatory workout and gets taken off the postseason roster? Like, get out of here, dude.
That is pretty crazy to me. And I love that, like 2 months in, they were like, we're going to win it all. And it was so much has changed. And now they've got to play a tough Guardians team who looks a lot better. It'll be interesting to see who shows up at those games, though. Because I was talking to some people in Cleveland today, and they said they're a young team and it's not being adopted by the fans so well, even though they're winning. And so it'll be interesting to see if a lot of Yankees fans end up buying those tickets or if they are able to sell them to the local fans. But let's get into a couple of the playoff matchups real fast. It was an interesting weekend with this new kind of format here. The Guardians beat the Rays 2-0 in games. The Blue Jays had an epic collapse. I thought it was kind of funny that maybe a little bit of the Maple Leafs rubbing off on them. They lost that game 10-9, but they were winning really big. They ended up getting swept in their series. The Mets ended up losing to the Padres 2-1 in that one. And Scherzer lost in that last series that could have helped them get a little bit of a better positioning. And then he lost the opener game in that series. And that series was in New York because it's interesting. These wild card rounds, all 3 games are in the hometown of one team. It's not like they go back and forth. So a lot of upsets though. The Cardinals got swept by the Phillies, which I thought was interesting as well. So the series as they stand, it starts, the NLDS and the ALDS start tomorrow, 1:00 on Fox. It's the Phillies at the Braves. And then at 3:37 on TBS, the Mariners go to the Astros. At 7:37 on TBS, the Guardians go to the Yankees. And then at 9:37 on FS1, the Padres go to the Dodgers. I don't know if either of you guys have any thoughts of any of those series. I'll start with Arun. Any thoughts on the baseball playoffs?
I'm kind of surprised that the Cardinals kind of choked away against the Phillies, but I guess we get to see them play the Braves, a division rival, and the Mariners also, they came back with like a huge deficit they had against the Toronto Blue Jays, and they were able to rally back, and they play the Houston Astros. And it's interesting that the Astros are actually playing that well, like since that cheating scandal. So I'm not sure how much the cheating, or if they're still actually cheating, but I'm wondering, they actually must be like a pretty solid team then. And then the Padres, Juan Soto, and he's playing pretty well. And the Dodgers with Trey Turner, so 2 former Nationals facing off. And then the Guardians, the lowest payroll, versus the Yankees with one of the larger payrolls. And they'll have an even larger payroll probably if they pay Aaron Judge, who will probably get like $50 or $55 million a year or something ridiculous after his 62 home run season. And I'm not really sure who's going to win the World Series, but it'll be interesting to watch the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Champ, any thoughts on the baseball playoffs?
These are some very interesting matchups, especially like with the Phillies and the Braves. You know, they're in the same division of the NL East, so it's really crazy to see 2 NL East teams face off in the playoffs. Mariners Astros should be also very interesting. The Yankees, with that turmoil what we just talked about, see how they handle that one. I'll be interested to see what happens with the Padres and the Dodgers, especially with Soto. I was still very salty when we traded Soto to the Padres, but it looks like Soto might have a chance to maybe win another ring this time with San Diego. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with these playoff series, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's October baseball, ladies and gentlemen, October baseball.
Yeah, and I want to make a correction. The touchdown made them go up by 7. So the question is whether the reason that they went for 2 there is because 1 would have been 8 and then 2 would have been 9, I guess. And so that's why they did it. I had the wrong score up before. So they're up 30-23 in this game, 5:26 left. Vegas has the ball right at midfield. They try to do a running play and didn't get anything there. I think I'm going to end our Facebook and our audio portion of the podcast, but then we can decide where we're going to raid on the Twitch side after that. But Champ, before we end the audio side of the podcast, let people know what's happening on the No Spots podcast this week.
So this week on the podcast, we will be recapping this past Saturday's Extreme Rules pay-per-view premium live event, which, like I mentioned before, saw the return of Bray Wyatt and plus had some really, really good matches as well. We'll also look back on the week, including a big return that took place on Raw this week, plus what's going on with NXT, SmackDown, AEW, and Impact Wrestling, as well as Impact had their next set of tapings this past Saturday and Sunday for their next set of shows leading into their next event. So we got all that coming for you on the No Spots podcast, which you can find streaming live on Twitch, twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod, Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You can catch the audio on all your audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or you can check out the podcast partners button on SportsOTHP.com.
Awesome. And I'll let Arun give his final shout out or anything he wants to talk about before we end our audio podcast.
Yeah, I saw that I was somehow second in the pick'em pool. I don't even really know how that happened, but I accidentally picked the Raiders tonight, so I'm definitely not going to be first at this rate.
Well, as you say that, 48-yard touchdown reception pulls them within 1 with an extra point coming. A great play.
Who caught it?
Double move. Yeah.
Who was it?
Devontae Adams.
Yes, let's go. That's points. That's fantasy points, baby.
Nice. Yeah, great catch. And he just went over the top. It was double covered too. So an interesting thing. It looks like they're going for 2. Is that correct? It looks like it. Yeah, they are. Interesting. 2-point attempt. So we're going to hold it here because this is obviously going to be potentially a big play. Yeah, there's still plenty of time left in this game at 4:27. I question going for 2 here this early. Rue, what are your thoughts on this?
I guess they really don't think they have a shot in this game like I did even before, but they're going for 2 against the top team in their division. They're trying to get back to 2 and 3. It would be a big play if they can convert it.
Wow. His knee hit the ground before the ball broke the plane. So it was very close. It was a running play up the middle. He stumbles. He's so close. Oh, man. They may have to review this. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be hard. Is there any?
Oh, I'm so happy right now that Devontae Adams caught that touchdown pass because in another league that I'm in, I was down coming into this game. And because of Devontae Adams and Devontae Adams alone, I'm about to win.
Wow.
And unlucky for him, unlucky for my opponent, he had poor Darren Walker who left the game with a hamstring injury.
Oh, no. I think they're going to have to review that because it's very close. Because from that other point of view, did you see what I saw, Arun? Where
I think
it looks like it's
overturned, but just because they made the call on the field, they might not overturn it. But if they were just calling it straight in the replay, I think.
Well, I think that on the first angle, it looked like his knee hit the ground, but I think he was on top of another player. So, but I agree with you. I'm not sure it's going to be enough to overturn it. It's going to be exciting either way. But it's a commercial break. I don't know if I'm going to, try to get us all the way to the other side of this, but I'll just say that people should go and turn it on live, and I will end the audio podcast here, but we might stay for a minute live on Twitch and see what happens over there. So you can join us over on Twitch, but thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been episode 285 Sports on the Hill podcast, DC Sports without the politics. So thank everyone for tuning in for the audio and the Facebook live. I'm going to stop that now, but catch us again in 2 weeks where we're going to have an extra long episode, an hour of hockey talk, a little delayed football talk, and some we'll go over the 3 basketball games as well. So thank you everyone for tuning into the audio podcast and on Facebook Live, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Sayonara.
So that ended that. We're going to stay live here on Twitch. I'm going to ask everybody in chat does anyone have anybody that they want us to raid? So if you're in chat and you're lurking, you'd like us to raid somebody, put a name in chat, and we can go visit somebody there. I'm just taking a look here at the different people. We may actually go visit Kevin Chambers Music, who's a musician who likes Washington, D.C. sports. That might be the play. If other people don't have a suggestion, we could also go raid T-Pain, which would be kind of funny.
That's funny.
But I don't know how much the 9 people are going to make a dent in this 900 people watching T-Pain right now. But just thought it's funny that you could raid T-Pain on a platform like this. So in the end, they said that they did not get the 2-point conversion there. Just taking a look right here real quickly. Champ, you have anybody in mind that you'd like to do? If not, maybe we'll do Kevin Chambers Music.
Let's go with let's go with Kevin.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin. Just make sure that he's been on for a little bit, but not too long, and he has been. Oh wait, Kevin Chambers Music. I was getting him confused with somebody else. He's a New Yorker. He's still a really good guy. I was thinking of somebody else. There's 2 that have very similar names. But Kevin is a good guy, and I've been liking his music a lot lately. He was cheering me up during my COVID thing. So I still like the idea of going to raid him. Let me do a raid of that, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Arun, welcome back to the podcast. In 2 weeks, we'll talk a little bit of NBA with you, but I appreciate your time as always. Champ, thank you for modding and being a part of this, and thank you for everybody for tuning in on whatever platform that is. Everyone just can join. I'm going to do a raid and a sub raid. You can grab whatever applies to you, but thank you to the people that have been lurking on Twitch. And if you're lurking and you haven't given me a follow, if you could give me a follow, we're only 2 away from our follow goal for the month. We're at 418. We're trying to get to 420 by the end of October.
Nice.
But thank you everyone for being a part of it. I really appreciate it. I'm going to send the raid over right now, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.